Hi folks, it's Grandpa Dickie. We get a lot of requests from our customers that want to stain their cabinetry or their new cart to match their cabinetry, or they want to paint the base. And so we recommend in our literature that this not be done. And primarily what we're trying to prevent people from doing is going out, taking one of our carts that's been dipped in mineral oil, and then taking a can of polyurethane, spraying it up, only to have it flake off when it gets in the sun or a heat source and that sort of thing. So today I want to show you some of the different ways that will work on our cabinets. Remember, they've all been dipped in mineral oil, and mineral oil isn't too compatible with anything other than another mineral oil base. So I'll give you some options today. First, I'm going to do a top, and we recommend you leave the top natural. But if you don't want to use mineral oil on it, you want to put a permanent coating on it, recommend either tung oil or Danish oil. There's lots of good brands out there. I'm just going to do the top of this small cart here. And what I recommend is that you take a little sandpaper, go with the grain, and the sandpaper should be at least 150 to 200 fine grit in the store. And after you get it nice and smooth, take a tack cloth. You can buy those in any of the paint stores and go over it. And what that does, takes off all of the dust so that your stain or your coating doesn't get contaminated by the dust. I'm going to apply tung oil to this top. You want to be careful that it doesn't run down the sides and get on the sides. Just take a nice clean cloth, an old t-shirt, great. Won't hurt it if you just squirt it right onto the top. And you just spread it around. Unlike paint, you don't necessarily have to go with the grain. It doesn't hurt anything, but with this, just nice light oil. You're going by the directions on the can. Usually say wait 10 or 15 minutes, and then whatever excess is, just wipe it off. But as you can see, or maybe you can see this, there's almost no residue on the top. It's a little bit damp to the feel, so we'll wait about whatever it says on the can. Sometimes it'll tell you to wait 2 or 3 hours, sometimes less, sometimes more, before you apply the second coat. When you're applying Danish oil or tung oil, I recommend 3 coats. This protects it real nicely, gives it a nice warm glow. It's not glossy at all. Make sure that you seal up the ends real well, especially on the end grain here. I'm going to take a scrap here and show you what happens. Here again, I'm going to sand this. We're going to try Danish oil with stain in it. It already has the stain. This is a one-step process. I'm going to do that first. Wipe it down. Okay. Here again, I'm just going to take a cloth. Now, with the stain, you'll find that this, being a hardwood top, doesn't penetrate like it would with oak or pine or that sort of thing. The grain's very close, so it'll have a tendency not to give you the color you need, perhaps with the first coat. But we'll just pour on here. It's pretty dark. Then with the hardwood, a lot of times you'll get like little hard knots. It doesn't penetrate quite as well as the rest of the unit. So as you can see, you've got a nice warm brown. Here again, instructions are the same. Wait 15-20 minutes. Wipe off any excess. It's very forgiving. You don't want to leave spots on there of droplets of the stain. But that gives you a good idea of what's happening there. Now, one other thing we'll take a look at, and that is a lot of times you can go and you'll find antiquing. It'll call it an antiquing oil or an antiquing oil finish. Here again, I'm going to sand it down. This is just a scrap I'm using here. I'm going to going to pour the antiquing finish on. Not a lot different from what I did originally with the tonneau. That's one of the three things that I would do to a top. Of course, you can always paint it, but the results of a painted top usually aren't very good because people scratch the paint, they do this, whereas the hardwood takes a lot of abuse before you even see any dings or anything. You'll never get any splinters or that sort of thing. I'm going to show you some applications. If we were going to stain the cabinet itself, I'm going to use some doors and we'll do a few different things. But first thing you may want to do after you've sanded it, you've used your tack cloth on all surfaces, you'll want to do the front and the back, for example, on the doors. There's a product and it's in every home center or paint store in the country, and it's called a pre-stain. That's usually what it goes by. And what it does is it prepares the surface for the stain that's to come. And sort of what it does is it keeps stain from splotching. A lot of times when you stain something, you'll just see little splotches everywhere, and you're wondering, well, why is that? And this helps alleviate that. So what I'm going to do is just very, very liquidy. So you have to use it rather sparingly. But here again with the grain, it's just like painting with water. So you want to be in a nice protected place with a little protection on a table or outside. It doesn't smell as bad as some of the stains. And all this is doing is preparing the wood for the next step. And let it dry the proper amount of time. You only have to do that one time. Now, right now, I'll prep the other ones and then we'll come back and we'll apply some stain. Hi folks, remember yesterday we put the pre-stain on 2 different doors, and today I'm going to show you what 2 different applications are. One, I'm going to put just a plain cherry stain, no additives in it, and then I'm going to do a 1-coat cherry stain that also has the poly included in it. So I'm going to take, if you'll notice, a lot of times the doors are light and dark. In this case, I'm going to take the lighter door and I'm going to try the stain with the poly in it. You're going to do both sides, but I think one side at a time will work. And we're going to let it sit here for about 10 minutes. Okay, the stain has been sitting for about 5 to 10 minutes. Just going to take it and wipe it off with the grain. It's going to be a 1-coat process, so you don't want to wipe it off too soon, especially if you want a little deeper color. You can put the 2nd coat on, but you're going to find it probably won't penetrate as well as the first time because this has the polyurethane in it and that's going to seal up the grain, and so you're not going to accept too much more. So you might want to try it on a little piece of scrap wood or something first just to make sure that that's what you're getting. It should be hardwood. But you can see how nicely that's going to come out. Now I'm going to do one that just uses the cherry stain. This door is a little darker to begin with, so you don't want to put too much of a color in it. If I were to put the one that has the urethane in it, it's going to come out a little bit darker, but not a lot. So this is just very liquid cherry stain. Here again, I'm going to do this with the grain. Now this way, if it doesn't come out as dark as you wanted it the first time, then you can put additional coats on. But you won't be able to if you have the poly in there. Leave it flat here and leave it for about 10-15 minutes, and then we'll see what happens from that point on. Okay, after about 5, I left it stay about 10 minutes. Then I'm just going to wipe off that excess. You don't want any of it to pool on there, or it might get spots. But by putting that pre-stain on there, it eliminates a lot of splotches that you might have otherwise, and it seems to work pretty well. Okay, now I'm going to wipe all that stain off, and then I'm going to leave this for about 4 hours, or whatever the can says, and then we decide to put another coat of stain on it, and after that dries overnight, then we can put polyurethane or some other coating on it, whatever you want, a satin, gloss, semi-gloss, eggshell type finish. Okay, I'm going to paint this side. You probably won't like it, but I'm just picking a country color. It's a oil-based paint, and just going to show you how it goes on. Here again, you want to just lightly sand, use a tack cloth, make sure your paint's stirred real well. Here again, we're going to paint. The main thing here is just to show you that you can paint it. You can paint it any color, but you should have an oil-based paint. This happens to be an enamel. It'll dry a little bit slower, and the sheen will be just a little bit higher than a satin, for example. We'll try another color. Okay, now we're going to use a white base. It's a high hiding base. It's an oil-based paint, and we're just going to take a scrap side panel here. This particular panel, I did put a preconditioning, clear preconditioning solution on that and let it dry. And now we're just going to show you what this will come out as. Make sure that you don't have any little pools of paint on it. Punch it out. This is just one coat, but it's a high hiding white, and it's going to dry to a, this is gloss, but you can get it in any gloss that you want. You can leave that alone. You can see it's pretty good shape, even though I only have one coat on there. It's going to take a second coat. So we'll go by the instructions on the can. It's probably overnight before you can recoat it, but it's going to come out real nice if you want to paint it white. Okay, folks, we're going to stain a cart that's already assembled, because a lot of people assemble them and then later on they decide they want to match the cabinetry. So I'm just going to leave this assembled, and I'm going to paint, actually going to stain this one with cherry, and then we'll put the polyurethane finish on it. This is just a stain. It is cherry stain, no particular brand or anything, but any real good stain that matches what you want to stain. So I'm going to stain that. Here again, I'm going to go right with the grain. Okay, now that we've got the unit stained, I've stained the inside of the doors. All the other parts, the sides, the back, all stained. Top of the drawer, edges of the drawer. Then you can look it over, make sure that no stain left on it. If you do, just wipe it off after about whatever it says on your container, usually about 5 to 15 minutes. This has been on about 10 minutes. Hi folks, you remember earlier we took a couple of panels, we put just plain cherry stain on one of the doors, and then we put cherry stain with polyurethane in it. Now, that was a couple of days ago, and now the one with the polyurethane is rough. It came out very rough. So if you want to finish that off, you have to sand it down, use the tack cloth, and then put polyurethane on. I don't think another coat of the stain plus the polyurethane is going to do that any good, other than darken it a little bit. It still may come out a little bit rough. Now the one we just put the stain on, that's nice and smooth.